Up next, and every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern, tune in to Grand Theft Auto Biographies with Guinness Walker. And don't forget Grand Theft Auto Geographies, Fridays at 9 a.m. Eastern. Only on Weasel, confirming your prejudices.
Warning, this program is entirely fictional and made by a sole Canadian man. All characters and events in the show, including the host, even those that are based on real people, are entirely fictional. The following program contains mature subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised.
America. The land of the free. Home of the brave. And the stupid. And the criminally insane.
Is that what you think?
Boss, I ain't been saying nothing about you.
The United States has seen its fair share of gangbangers, mobsters, and psychotics who've roamed our beloved streets, causing untold chaos, destruction, and corruption. Tonight, on Grand Theft Auto Biographies. Power, paranoia, and prestige. Tonight's subject is a man whose criminal career spans decades, and whose reach at the height of his power was inescapable, owning judges, politicians, and police officers around the country, and most prominently in the worst place in America, Liberty City. We will follow an old-school gangster's rise and fall as one of the most feared and notorious mob bosses in recent American history, and witness the trail of bodies and destruction he would leave in his wake as he struggled to reach and remain at the top. A man whose notoriety and impact lingered in the city he helped shape even long after he was gone, thanks to his longevity as a leader, a businessman, and a crook. Salvatore Leone. This episode of Grand Theft Auto Biographies brought to you by my incredible supporters on Patreon. If you want to support the channel and get access to all the music used in my shows, as well as early access to episodes and a spot in the credits, visit patreon.com/Guinness Walker. And if you like this series, consider checking out Grand Theft Auto Geographies, where I cover the many districts of the Grand Theft Auto games and even break character to examine the real-world inspirations for each. Thank you for watching, and enjoy the show. Salvatore was born in Palermo, Sicily, most likely sometime in the 1930s, as he appeared to be in his mid-50s by the early 1990s. It is believed that Salvatore had at least one sibling, a brother who may or may not have also become involved in organized crime in Liberty City, though the Leone brothers' identity remains a mystery, if he exists at all. At some point, perhaps when Sal was a young boy, his family emigrated from Italy to live a new life in the United States, and a fairly typical American crime drama would unfold following their arrival. Exactly who Salvatore's parents were also remains ambiguous, with some of our reporters believing Leone to be a surname created specifically for America, making it difficult to find the true lineage of the Leones. What we know for sure is that Salvatore's family became heavily involved in the Liberty City criminal underworld early on, and eventually, Sal would rise through the ranks of the growing Leone crime family until taking control of it following a bloody power struggle in the mid-1980s against presumably Salvatore's uncle, who may or may not have founded the Leone family with Salvatore's father in the 30s, though this is mere speculation on our part. At some unknown point, given the timeline of events likely just before or after the power struggle of the 80s, Salvatore would also have his only son, Joey Leone, with his first wife, whose fate remains unknown, and purchase a large mansion estate in Portland Beach, bordering the St. Mark's district. Now in charge of one of the three dominant families vying for control of Liberty City, Salvatore would attempt to expand his operation to the west, after negotiating the terms of a deal proposed by longtime rivals of the Leones, the Sindacos. Sometime in 1992, Johnny Sindaco, son of the Sindaco family Don, would approach Salvatore with a proposal for peace. The three crime families of Liberty would all work together to purchase and operate a lavish hotel and casino in fabulous Las Venturas, San Andreas, Caligula's Palace. Despite initial hesitation on Salvatore's part to ever work with the Sindacos again after they'd killed Sal's cousin, eventually, he would negotiate terms that satisfied his interests, including introducing a supposed neutral third party in the easily manipulatable former Forelli lawyer Ken Rosenberg, allowing him to maintain complete control over the business's books. Although the arrangement was disproportionately beneficial to the Leones, the other two families would agree, due to Salvatore's unique ability to almost single-handedly finance the operation with $5 million of his own vast fortune. And with that, the Leone crime family now had territory on the West Coast. After the casino was established and running, Salvatore would pay a personal visit to Las Venturas and temporarily set up shop in the Jewel of the Desert to ensure that Ken Rosenberg did exactly as he was expected, and listened only to his orders and not those of the other two controlling families. To essentially nobody's surprise, not one of these three families could honor their agreement of managing the casino together on peaceful terms, and inevitably, violence between the three would erupt once again. Salvatore would learn that the Forelli family was sending a group of hitmen to come and take him out, and receive what he thought was a stroke of good luck when Ken Rosenberg vouches for the services of one Carl Johnson, who already had previous association with the Leones, having worked for Salvatore's son, Joey, stealing cars back in Liberty City.
And who's this asshole?
The name's Carl Johnson, sir. Before working with Mr. Rosenberg here, I had the pleasure of doing business with your son, Joey, back in Liberty City.
You know my Joey? I like that. So, kid, what can I do for you?
Well, Ken vouch for me. I'm a straight killer.
Oh, one-man fucking army. A real dependable. Total fucking maniac, too.
You know the Forellis are sending over a crew to hit me. Their flight gets in soon. Traveling as a string quartet. I was gonna send some of the boys over as a little welcoming committee. But, maybe you can take care of it.
Thank you, sir. I guarantee you won't regret this.
Maybe I should go
You stay where you are, Rosenberg. I don't want you getting yourself lost.
Instantly endeared to Carl, Salvatore would entrust him with the responsibility of intercepting the approaching Forelli hitmen, which Johnson successfully does. Fully believing Johnson to be on board with the Leone family, he would next send Carl to put the Forellis in their place, when he had him fly to the St. Mark's district in the winter of 1992 to assassinate the then head of the Forelli family, Marco Forelli, at the bistro which some believe takes its name from him, the famous Marco's Bistro. Johnson would methodically cut through the dozens of Forelli foot soldiers and finally put down Marco himself, leaving the Forellis a scattered mess, a blow they would take nearly 6 years to recover from.
Carl, my man.
Mr. Leone?
Looks like this piece of shit was right. You did a real number on those Forelli losers. Now it's time the Forellis found out what it means to screw with Salvatore Leone. How would you like to hit the St. Mark's Bistro?
A hit in Liberty City? Cool, but I'm gonna need some backup.
Take who you want.
Well, I usually use these two.
Hey, remember all those jobs we did together? Huh? You and me, Carl, remember? Huh? You know, you used to call me Killer Ken. Ken the Killer? Ice Cold Ken. That's me.
And him too, I guess.
Despite trusting in Johnson, Salvatore would learn, shortly after hearing of Marco's death, that Carl had been working against him the entire time, and planning a massive heist of Caligula's palace with the San Fierro triads under Wu Zimu, who had themselves recently come to Las Venturas, and whose own casino, the Four Dragons, was a direct competitor to the Mafia's venture. Carl and the triads would manage to escape with the undisclosed amount of money, but it was believed to be somewhere in the range of at least $500,000, as Johnson alone pocketed $100,000 for his role in planning and executing the heist. Around this time, Salvatore would also meet his future second wife, Maria Latour, when she was working as a waitress for Caligula's, with Leone instantly being interested in her and presumably taking her back to Liberty City with him following the casino robbery.
I like this girl. What's your name, kid?
Maria. And the service is not included.
Hey, the woman, you fat fuck!
You heard the bird.
Come on. Are you kidding me? See you later, guys.
Furious at being double-crossed, Salvatore would swear vengeance on Johnson, threatening to kill him and anyone close to him, though due to unknown reasons, Leone would never follow through on these threats, despite clearly having the reach to try, and instead moved back to Liberty City to continue managing the family from his luxurious mansion in Portland Beach.
Sup?
You two-bit backstabbing piece of eggplant shit!
Salvatore! Nice to hear from you too.
You're dead. Your friends are dead. Your family's dead. I'm gonna fuck you up and your children and your grandchildren.
Well, it's been nice talking to you, but I got some money that needs spending on some expensive trash, so if you excuse me.
You're dead. Dead.
By 1994, Salvatore was back to living in Liberty City and attempting to grow the influence of the Leone family. He would assign low-level operator at the time, Tony Cipriani, to assassinate a made man from either the Forelli or Sindaco crime family, though it is unknown which, and after successfully pulling off the hit, Salvatore would send Tony into hiding for 4 years to let the heat die down, eventually welcoming him back to the city and family in 1998, when the Leones were once again beginning to struggle in keeping up with their rivals. With Tony back in town, Salvatore would assign him to work for Leone earner Vincenzo Chile, but the two would quickly become bitter enemies.
Vincenzo will look after you. You need some money? Ask him. You need a job? Lucky he'll take care of you. What more could a family guy ask for? Even my son done got it so good.
But, Mr. Leone, I thought we got history. I mean, I've done a lot for this family. And now you're expecting me to take orders from this... Well, it just doesn't seem right.
Tony, I know what you did, and no one is more grateful than me, honestly. But the idea that you walk in here and start to question my leadership right away is, quite frankly, out of order. Capiche?
I understand, boss.
So when you need something, give Vincenzo a call down at Atlantic Key. He'll take care of you. Won't you, Lucky?
Of course, boss. Anything you say. Tell you what, we can go there now.
Salvatore's patience at this time would be tested not only by constant territorial conflicts and clever moves by his enemies, but by his deteriorating marriage to Maria Latour, who had been married to Leone for years now and lost nearly all interest in the aging wise guy and begun to fight with him frequently, on top of allegedly adulterous behavior, which Salvatore seemed to be well aware of.
Fuck me! Fuck you! In fact, everyone has!
With a looming war with the Sindacos for control of Liberty City's red light district, as well as growing conflict brewing in Hepburn Heights and Chinatown against up-and-comers the Diablos and Triads respectively, Salvatore Leone would become increasingly frustrated and paranoid as his enemies seemingly surrounded him. While visiting Polly's Review Bar brothel, he would be forced to flee the club when somebody tips off the police to the illegal goings-on inside the club, and only manage to escape unscathed thanks once again to the loyal Tony Cipriani. Fearing that even his trusted allies were failing him, Salvatore would begin giving Tony more and more responsibility as the two became closer, and he would employ Tony's assistance in dealing with a union fiasco at the Portland docks.
Hey, boss, you okay?
Do I look okay?
No.
Then what are you, a fucking moron? You're always saying the obvious. I can't believe I'm surrounded by people like you.
Sorry.
Listen, I'm sorry. Tony, you're one of my most trusted allies. After what you did, you're like a son to me. Better than my son. Better than any son. Your mother is a lucky woman.
So I hear.
Anthony, it's over for guys like us. We're dinosaurs, or dodos, or dildos, or something. I tell you, even in my own family, I feel like Jesus, surrounded by 12 Judases. I mean, listen to this. I got a union boss, abroad no less, that I need to do me a favor, and she asked me for money? All I wanted was 24-hour access to the docks while the strike was going on. Strikes that I helped organize so my boys could offload some drugs. And now I get this horse shit? I mean, these are people that I personally fought for, people I've killed for, honest people. And this is how they repay me?
It's insulting.
It's a disgrace. We're finished. Men of honor like you and me.
A union boss, Jane Hopper, was attempting to shake down Salvatore by blocking all of Leone's imports, during a strike which Salvatore himself originally helped to organize, in an effort to discreetly move drugs. And despite wanting nothing more than to give her a piece of his mind, Salvatore would decide that appeasing Hopper would be easier with the weight of the many wars already stressing the Leone's resources and manpower. Tony would attempt to pay Hopper off, but when she refused to end the strike, Salvatore would send Tony to intimidate the other union bosses, send prostitutes to the picket lines to lure away strikers, and finally, take Hopper on a joyride across Portland in order to finally make her capitulate and end the strikes. With the docks open to contraband again, Salvatore would also have Tony participate in a drug deal with the Colombian cartel, including future second-in-command Miguel, when the meeting is ambushed by the LCPD, although Tony would manage to escape with the cartel's drugs, only further impressing Don Salvatore. Continuing to use Tony's help, Salvatore would order the covert takeover of Polly's Review Bar when manager J.D. O'Toole expresses interest in betraying his bosses, the Sindaco family, and coming over to the Leone side.
Give us a hug. Whoa, you're sticky.
When the treachery is inevitably discovered by the Sindacos, the full-scale war would finally break out with the Sindacos attempting to bomb a Leone-controlled casino in St. Mark's, and Tony in turn destroying their club, the Doll's House, as retribution. This conflict would escalate to the point where Salvatore was kidnapped by Sindaco soldiers and was very nearly turned into flat Italian sausage at the Harwood car crusher before he was rescued once more by Tony Cipriani.
What kind of driving was that? You trying to kill me?
Mr. Leone, boss, I'm sorry. I mean, what can I tell you?
Sons of bitches, they think they can do that to me? I'll tear their fucking hearts out. This doesn't end here. For Christ's sake, Tony, you saved my ass. Call me Sal.
Behind the scenes, the conflict between Tony and Vincenzo Chile would reach a climax when Chile attempts to have Tony killed, but is instead killed himself by Tony, with apparently Salvatore's blessing, as no punishment appears to ever have been given to Cipriani. With Tony now Salvatore's right-hand man, the two would exact revenge on the Sindacos, with Salvatore personally taking to the streets on a rampage across the red light district, killing every Sindaco soldier he could find. With the Leones spread thin, Salvatore would learn that the high-ranking Sicilian mobster, Massimo Torini, was coming to Liberty City to supposedly broker a truce between the three warring families, something Salvatore was deeply suspicious of. He would have Tony follow Torini as he flew around town, discovering his meetings with both the Diablos and Triads before Tony is spotted and Torini flees. Believing the Sicilians to be meddling in the Liberty City Mafia affairs, Salvatore's paranoia would only get worse when the Diablos launch a full-scale attack on Leone foot soldiers operating in Hepburn Heights, forcing the Leones once again to play defense. To make things worse, Salvatore would also discover that Mayor Roger C. Hull, who had been pocketed by Don Franco Farelli, was intending to blame the violence in Portland entirely on the Leones. In a brief lapse of judgment, Salvatore's suspicions would lead him to threaten even Tony, believing everyone around him to be working against his interests.
What the fuck? I don't know what's happening to me. Jesus, I'm getting paranoid, Tony. Really fucking paranoid. Just because I think everyone hates me doesn't mean they don't. Know what I mean? Someone is out to get me. It's that fucking mayor! He's gonna blame me for all this shit that's been going down in the neighborhood. All of it! Not just the crap that I did, but all of it! Come on, let's go take care of this.
Now being pushed out of Portland, Salvatore and Tony would flee the island across the incomplete Callahan Bridge and begin lying low at a safe house in Newport while he planned his next move against his enemies, who seemed to only be multiplying. Sal's first move in hiding would be to have Roger Hull assassinated by Tony, who after disposing of the mayor would also begin assisting Leone-sponsored politician Donald Love in his bid to replace Hull. In addition, Salvatore would also have Tony work with corrupt police officer Leon McCaffrey and his partner Ray Machowski to hamper their enemies in a chaotic mess of gang wars and shootouts of their own. Still suspicious of his enemies constantly being one step ahead of him, Salvatore would personally go with Tony to intimidate the former mayor's assistant into divulging who was helping the Farellis, and finally receive confirmation that it was in fact the Sicilians who were attempting to force the three families of Liberty City to destroy each other so that they could swoop in and take over afterwards, the Leones considered the main threat by the old country. Seeing opportunity in the same places as his enemies, Salvatore would work to ensure the secret of the Sicilians' involvement remained just that to the other families, even at one point sending Tony to silence a Farelli wise guy, who discovers the truth, before he is able to tell his bosses. The Leones, now playing their own twisted game, would allow the Sindaco and Farelli families to war with each other, and even prevent them from making peace when a truce meeting is interrupted by Don Pauly Sindaco's car running over dozens of Sindaco soldiers as it was remote-controlled from a van by Tony Cipriani. Despite all of their efforts, unfortunately, Donald Love would lose the election when his connection to the Leone family is exposed, with the Farelli-backed candidate Miles O'Donovan becoming the new mayor of Liberty City, and Salvatore being blamed for the rise in crime exclusively. Salvatore would be arrested and imprisoned, serving brief jail time at a police station in Pike Creek, while he awaited trial.
He's your lawyer, Mr. Leone.
I know who the hell he is, pal. Come on, give me a break here. Go ahead, kid, run along. Say hello to your mother for me, Gabish.
You got 5 minutes.
Listen, Lionel, you're looking good. Look at me, a fine member of the community, and suddenly I'm banged up. It really challenges my philanthropic nature.
Of course, Mr. Leone, we're doing everything we can to get you out of here and, back to helping your community as soon as possible.
Of course. I hope we can sue someone for this outrage. Those cunts the Sindacos or those cocksuckers the Farellis? Who was it? Who ratted me out? Let's hit them both hard. Way I see it, they both could use a good beating for this outrage. Motherfuckers!
It will be my pleasure.
Thank you. Tony, you really mean a lot to me. You know that? Listen, you might need some backup. Use the hoods, okay?
Whatever you think is best, Mr. Leone.
All right. Get out of here, Lionel.
Even from jail, however, Don Salvatore would continue to make moves using his many soldiers, most prominently his number 2, Tony Cipriani. Sal would order the death of Paulie Sindaco from inside, which Tony carries out personally and effectively wipes the Sindacos off the map. Following it up by having Tony work with Leone associate 8-Ball to plant explosives underneath the Forelli-controlled Fort Staunton neighborhood, which while resulting in the deaths of thousands, also effectively kneecapped the Forellis as well, leaving the Leones free to deal with even more up-and-coming rivals in the Yakuza. Thanks to the incredible efforts of Tony Cipriani, which you can see more of in our episode on him, the Yakuza would soon be dealt with as well, and soon Salvatore's trial would take place. Despite the Sicilians' attempt to have Sal killed en route to the courthouse, Salvatore would attend his trial unharmed, and be found not guilty, returning as a free man to his estate in Portland to tie up loose ends with a little more help from Tony. Though the Sicilians would try to broker peace at this point, fearing Salvatore's retribution, Salvatore would instead refuse, seeking peace only on his own terms, causing the Sicilians to kidnap Mayor Miles O'Donovan in an attempt to keep Salvatore from reaching him, an effort which ultimately proves unsuccessful. Sal and Tony would chase the Sicilians across the waterways of Liberty City until cornering Massimo Torini, holding the mayor hostage at a lighthouse off of Portland Beach. Tony would kill Torini, and the Leones would safely escort the mayor back to Salvatore's Gentlemen's Club to explain his new obligations.
Hey, Mr. Mayor! We just saved you from a bunch of crazed Sicilians.
Yeah, thanks.
And that means?
The city is grateful to you. Ow!
Try again.
That you work for me, right?
Oh yeah, that I work for you.
Good. Now don't call us, we'll call you. Get out of here, prick.
Thank you, Mr. Leone.
Tony! We did it! We run things now, you and me. We're a team, huh? Now I just need you to do one small thing for me. I got some problems that I've been dealing with.
Making peace his way, Sal would meet with his uncle of the Sicilian mob and finally put to rest the conflict with the old country, as well as making Don Salvatore Leone the undisputed boss of Liberty City.
All we really wanted was clarity.
Yes, Uncle, I appreciate that.
So, we are at peace now. You and the old country.
Of course, me and all my people.
Good, very good.
Sneaky little bastard. I wouldn't trust him a fucking inch.
Every dog has his day.
Yeah, but we did it.
Yeah, we cleaned up. You did good, Tony. You did real good. I always knew you was a good kid. You saved my ass a few times, and I appreciate that kind of loyalty.
Thank you.
A good worker? I like that. Respectful. So I got you that $500,000 I promised you.
Half? Ooh, I thought you, said a couple.
I said $1 million. For what? You can put a price on friendship? The kind of friendship you and me have? Shame on you. Come here. You're a good kid. But shame on you.
Enjoying his status as Liberty City's kingpin, in April of 2001, Salvatore would manage to once again avoid criminal charges when, for the 5th time, the state attempted to bring a case against him for $450,000 of undeclared income. From an article in the Liberty Tree dated April 1st, 2001, by Julius Cohen, quote, Salvatore Leone walked free from a federal court yesterday, as the case against him collapsed. Leone, who had been on trial for tax evasion, a case that the state prosecutor intended to turn into a racketeering charge, smiled as he walked away free from the courts in downtown Liberty City today. Leone had been on trial after Inland Revenue experts found serious accounting irregularities on the Leone books, including $450,000 of undeclared income. The state had been very confident of making the charges stick. The prosecution's case had been based largely on the sum of undeclared income. The jury, however, unequivocally accepted Mr. Leone's explanation that the money had not been accrued by racketeering, but by illegal importing of tomato sauce from Mr. Leone's hometown of Palermo, Sicily. Although Mr. Leone was subsequently found guilty of a minor charge of importing fresh foodstuffs without a license and paid a cursory fine, as well as all unpaid revenue, he has stayed out of prison again. This is the 5th time the state has taken Leone to court since, they allege, he took control of the Leone crime family in a bloody power struggle in the mid-1980s. It is also the 5th time he has walked free. He has paid numerous fines, but no matter how serious the evidence, he has always avoided conviction. Upon leaving court, Leone said to waiting reporters, "I am just a businessman from Sicily. I have made a few mistakes, and perhaps I have not always followed the law to the letter, but I always believed in its spirit. The police associate me with my brother, but I never do these things they blame me for." Leone's lawyer, Maurice Goldberg, commented, "Mr. Leone is dyslexic. Court tests prove it. His accounts are always in a mess, but he is not dishonest. Nor is he in the mafia. As a Sicilian, he knows some unsavory characters, but what kind of America is it when a man is found guilty because of the friends he has? I don't want to live in an America like that. Do you? No, Mr. Goldberg, we certainly don't." End quote. Salvatore would rule over Liberty City's criminal underworld nearly uncontested for the next 3 years, until a series of small mistakes ultimately spelled the end of his long and notorious career as a powerful mafia boss. In 2001, the Leones would employ the assistance of rising independent contractor Claude, who had a history with one of Leone's main rivals in Portland around that time, the Colombian cartel. Using Claude to assist in a new war against the Chinatown Triads, now Capo regime Tony Cipriani would personally introduce the Reaper Man to Don Salvatore, who becomes endeared to the silent but effective killer. Still in an unhappy marriage, however, Maria Latour would take a liking to Claude, and eventually, in an effort to make Salvatore jealous, even lie about having had sex with Claude behind Sal's back, which enrages the Leone Don beyond reason. Salvatore would attempt to organize a hit on Claude by having him investigate a vehicle in the red light district, which had supposedly been covered in brains and needed disposing. In reality, the car was a trap, which would have exploded when Claude got inside. But thanks to a tip from Maria, Claude would manage to escape this fate. Running away with Salvatore's wife, Claude would return under orders from the Yakuza to prove his ties to the Mafia had been truly broken, and assassinate the Don of the most powerful crime family in Liberty City history. As Salvatore was leaving Luigi's Sex Club 7, Claude would manage to kill the Leone Don, proving Salvatore's uncle correct in the end, that every dog has his day. Salvatore Leone was an intelligent and ambitious man with a serious temper. Jovially crude in his younger years and bitterly content in his old age, Salvatore always found a way to make it in life through his own persistence and willpower as a leader and a wise guy. Though he grew increasingly paranoid following the late 90s mob wars, Sal would manage to keep at least one true friend through his many years as an unforgiving and likely unapproachable authority figure in Tony Cipriani, who he eventually promoted to Capo regime, and who may or may not have taken over for dearly departed Don following his assassination. A womanizer and a tough guy, Salvatore would marry at least twice, his first marriage producing his son Joey, and his later marriage to Maria Latour ultimately getting him killed. To those who knew him personally, Salvatore could be quite a pleasant and loyal friend, but to his enemies, the Leone patriarch would never show mercy. There is a reason that despite ultimately causing his own downfall, Salvatore Leone remained in control of the most powerful Liberty City mob for as long as he did. His unshakable persistence and ruthlessness, negotiating beyond his hand in the casino venture, refusing peace until it is made on his own terms, and instantly calling for the death of the man who would ultimately kill him when he suspects him of foul play. At the height of his power, Salvatore's influence over the city made him a known figure among not only the criminal underworld, but the mainstream media, with his association to organized crime being an open secret. Salvatore's relationship with his son is thought to have been less than ideal by his own standards. While Sal clearly had a great affection for his son, it remains highly speculated that the elder Leone Don was at least in some capacity disappointed that Joey was far more interested in cars and women than following in his father's footsteps as the next boss of the family, and this may explain Salvatore's fondness for Tony Cipriani, being closer to the son he wanted and able to potentially replace him if the worst ever befell him, which of course we all know it did. Salvatore's relationship with his family was also strained, with conflicts being frequent, be they dangerous wars with open bloodshed on the streets, or wars of words exchanged by lovers unhappy with where the relationship took them. Salvatore Leone was an Italian man raised predominantly in America with light skin and, in his youth, light brown hair, which grayed as he aged. Being on the shorter side, Salvatore for most of his life was relatively slender, but began to gain weight in his older age, which only became more apparent due to his height. Almost universally, Salvatore preferred to wear expensive Italian suits of many varieties, and carried himself with an exaggerated swagger to perhaps make up for the possible insecurities regarding his height. Even if entirely due to influence, at the height of his power, Salvatore Leone was an intimidating presence, if only because of his outright cutthroat attitude when it came to his enemies, and sometimes even his friends. Unlike many people we've examined on GTA biographies, Salvatore's most impactful time as a criminal was spent not as a soldier, but as a boss. As such, though Mr. Leone is suspected to have participated in plenty of carnage himself, the vast majority of violence and crime attributable to Salvatore Leone remains detached, and we must stress for legal reasons, highly speculative. That being said, let's take a look at the list of crimes Salvatore is suspected of being directly or indirectly responsible for. Ordering a hit on Marco Forelli. Ordering a hit on a mafia-made man. Using the services of a prostitute at Polly's Review Bar. Organizing a fake strike in order to move a drug shipment. Attempting to bribe Jane Hopper. Ordering for the intimidation of several union bosses. Ordering Tony to personally intimidate Jane Hopper. Ordering Tony to participate in a drug deal with the Colombian cartel. Killing numerous Sindaco soldiers. Evading the police in Portland and fleeing to Newport. Ordering a hit on Mayor Roger C. Hull. Attempting to rig the mayoral election. Ordering the deaths of numerous Forelli and Sindaco soldiers by having Tony disrupt a meeting. Ordering the death of a Forelli wise guy who had learned the truth about the Sicilian mob. Hiring Leon McCaffrey to continue stoking a war between his rivals. Ordering the death of numerous Forelli soldiers in Wichita Gardens. Ordering a hit on Polly Sindaco. Ordering the destruction of Fort Staunton. Ordering the death of Massimo Torini, numerous Sicilian soldiers, and manipulating the new mayor of Liberty City. Failing to declare income of $450,000. Importing fresh foodstuffs without a license. Failing to declare income of an unknown amount 4 more times. Ordering the death of Curly Bob. Ordering Claude to destroy the Colombian cartel's freighter in Portland Harbor. Ordering the death of Claude. In addition to all of these crimes, it is also not a stretch to say that Salvatore Leone could be held responsible for almost every crime committed by capo regime Tony Cipriani, as well as potentially every other Leone soldier, captain, and street thug who ever killed or exploited someone while working for the family. If all of Tony's crimes are umbrellaed underneath Salvatore, without a doubt he is one of the most savage and destructive men in American criminal history, and responsible for shaping one of the most iconic cities into what it is today. Every dog has his day, America, and tonight's subject was no different. Although there was a time when Salvatore Leone was among the most powerful people in the country, like any other ambitious crime lord, he would eventually see his downfall. America is a dangerous place, folks, and if you look close enough, you may just realize that the roots of American crime run deeper than you ever thought they could, with politicians, lawyers, judges, and all other manner of public servants having at some point been tied to the ever-present loom of organized crime. Stay indoors, people. You never know if that old man supposedly selling tomato sauce is secretly the most powerful mob boss in the nation. I'll see you next time on another episode of Grand Theft Auto Biographies, with me, your host, Guinness Walker. Thank you for watching.